So it's the last week of the Gold Club. Thank you to everybody that's been joining every single week. Hopefully you guys learned, at least a few things along the way. Took some notes, and then one thing that I did want to add as well was going to be that if you were in the Gold Club this time, doesn't mean that you shouldn't be in the next Gold Club. I was talking about this with Musa Soleil before the meeting, and we are saying how there's so much information in this, and sometimes it just doesn't click with you today, or it maybe not even be relatable to you today, but it might be a couple months from now, like 3 months when the next one comes. It might even be 6 months from now when we're doing Gold Club 2 times from now. You don't know when that information is going to be needed for you. Sometimes the information today doesn't really click. So again, the future ones, join them, join them, join them, and you're at least at a few $100,000 a month team. Our top guys in the playbook, probably the fastest growing team we've ever seen, went from $50,000 to $500,000 in 6 months. Something we've never seen before. Everybody, welcome Musa Immediate.
What's going on, everyone? My name is Musa. Some of you guys already might know me as Immediate. But just want to say thank you guys for all coming out. I know it's like the holiday week, especially everybody on the Zoom right now. So really appreciate everybody coming down here. I'm going to try to make this really informational, really good for everybody to learn from, like impactful as possible for the new year. But I just kind of wanted to get up here, share my story about like how we were able to scale so quickly, a little bit about myself and some of the things I learned along the way. So a lot of you guys know, yeah, from July to now, from 50K to 500K. But I really wanted to hit on my first, I've been here for almost 2 years, my first year and a half, how it was just always 30, 40, 50K a month. Most of you guys don't know, it took me a year and a half to start building. And after my first 6 months in the business, kind of got an idea of like how the system worked, how I get paid, how to contract, all those good things. And I seen everybody start to like, recruit and scale their teams. I even started around right around the same time as like Dante and Turner, some of those names that you guys know already. And I didn't want to get left behind, so I started recruiting in the beginning of 2025. And man, it was tough. My first like two recruits didn't even make it out like the first few weeks. I tried like posting on social media, it didn't work out too well. Those first two guys that came in here, did I make mistakes with them? Yeah, definitely. But also, they probably weren't really good fits for the business anyway. But it took me from that point in the beginning of the year, having like two downlines and then losing them, to like trial and error and trial and error, then getting another downline, him leaving after like the first week. It didn't really work out till I got my like first starting two or three guys in June, and didn't even get them contracted. I had their first sale to like July. But I want to say joining the Gold Club and the Diamond Club for the first time or for the third time really helped me out, cover those mistakes that I made in the first six months of the year. I had trouble with recruiting and not noticing like red flags early on. Some of the things that like we kind of learned in the Gold Club were like if they're giving you signals on them being not a good fit for the business, not showing up on time, giving them too many chances, not dialing the leads, not having like a right schedule in place for them, not having like a good training in place. All those things like went into effect of like um, how like your downline's outcome could have been. And sometimes not necessarily like the guys that you brought on could have been like maybe they weren't good fits, maybe they could have been better if they just had like a slightly better system in place. So definitely utilize like some of the stuff we learned in the last few weeks. One of the most important things that really helped me on scaling early on was getting my starting five. And I really followed like Ronnie, coach's advice, even on like the Diamond Club. And I want to like speak on this just a little bit. The Diamond Club. I joined the first Diamond Club when it was ran by Wiley and Ronnie in like late 2024. Yeah, like late 2024, the very first Diamond Club. And it was like me in there for the first time. It was Tanner and Dante in there for the first time. And I didn't really implement any of the stuff I like learned the first time. Second time around, they did the next Diamond Club a few months later. I joined that one. They had like at the time like Amin's guys were first starting off, like all the ATL guys were in there. So I started over. Same thing. Didn't really implement it, or actually like implement any of the things I was like learning in the business. I didn't take it too seriously. I don't know why. I thought I could just maybe do something a little bit differently, or maybe I didn't have to be on social media, or like maybe I could find a different way. But the whole time it was working for them, and I should have just followed the blueprint. The third time around, this is when it really clicked for me. The dudes that I joined with the very first Diamond Club were running the third Diamond Club. Dante and Tanner, the dudes that I started with, were running the third Diamond Club. So now I was like, yo, I started with these guys. They did the first round. They might have did the second round again. And the third time, they're not running it. And I'm learning from them, which is great. It's not like an egotistical thing. It's like, maybe had I implemented some of the things I learned earlier on, I would have probably been in that position. So it really just goes to show like what Coach hit on earlier. Maybe this is your first gold club. Maybe this is your second gold club. Just because this might be the second or third time doesn't mean you still can't benefit from some of the things you learned. And just to go back to what I went off on a tangent, but just to go back to what I was talking about earlier, one of the things that really helped me on the scaling was having a proper schedule in place. Because when you have like 2 or 3 guys like starting in the beginning, where it's like you're still like in that phase where like Ronnie always told me like selling gives your bread and butter. That's like where majority of your income is going to be coming in. But you also have like 2, 3, maybe 4 or 5 guys coming in. It's like, how do I split my time? If you had to take anything from the meeting, the first thing I would say is just make sure you avoid the red flags, make sure they're following the steps of being a great agent. Like, obviously coming in on time, dialing like 200 to 300 leads a day, but having a proper schedule in place. And that schedule we talked about in the Gold Club. Make sure, especially if you have a few guys under you guys actually treat this like a real schedule, like day in and day out. The way the schedule I followed was in the mornings, I would focus on training. And then I'd go to my bread and butter from 11 to 6. That's like phase 2 of training because you're still selling and then your guys are watching you sell. And then at night from like 6:30 to like 8, 9 o'clock is where you take questions for your downlines and then where you also start taking your recruiting calls. That's like one thing that I definitely like focus on is like having that schedule. The second thing I did to scale really quickly is after I got my first 3 or 4 guys on, I literally went through my phone and just called some people that I was pretty close with and asked them if they like needed the job or like kind of like threw the bone over the head, like, hey, how you been? How's everything going for you? Catch up a little bit with some of those contacts. And then ask them like, hey, I'm in this agency. I'm selling life insurance, going great. We're looking to expand our team. Do you know anybody that wants to possibly make $7,000 to $8,000 a month? Throw the bone over their head. Don't directly try to recruit them. Majority of the time, 9 times out of 10, they'd be like, yeah, I kind of want that position. Anybody that's working a normal job, $8,000 to $9,000, $7,000 a month is going to be a lot of money for them. So when you throw the bone over the head, they're like, hey, I'm a great hard worker. Why can't that be me? They'll most likely be like, yeah, I'm interested in the job. And then boom, you follow the steps from the Gold Club and the Diamond Club, you go through the recruiting process. That's like the first thing I did. So I got a few guys. I got my cousin FBI Mo, and then I got my other cousin Aid, who had just left his he was like running a bunch of Metro PCS stores. He had just left, was kind of like perfect timing, right? My whole focus was just to make sure those dudes got paid as soon as possible. And then I'm thinking, I want to catch up to Coach Amin, Joey Dials, Adam the Don. They're at the time they were doing probably like what 500,000-600,000 at the time.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't get there quick enough if I only have 2 or 3 guys. And I always thought I always went back. I'm like, how did Ronnie do it in a matter of a few months? And I used to always remember like whenever it was the dude's 3rd month in the business, 2nd, 3rd month, and he's starting to get paid. Ronnie would always do this thing. It's like, yo, like you've gotten paid, you got deposits. Do you know anybody else like from your family, your close circle that would kind of benefit for something like this? It was a great opportunity. You'd be like, yo, you have like you're showing all the great signs. You're a dog. You're selling at a high level. You should definitely take the next step and have the other part of the business where you can start making an income off of it and start recruiting. And then I would notice like those dudes that were coming on early on, like 6 months after I started, would start bringing in 2 or 3 or 4 guys. So I'm like, let me just implement the same thing with FBI Mo and Abe. They started to get paid, and I started to share my vision and what I wanted to do for my team, the same way Ronnie and Coach do it for us of where I want to be and where I want to get to the next level. I was like, hey, listen, I want to do 500,000 by the end of the year. This is what I'm currently making off you guys as an override, right? And this is what it would be. This is where like we're projected to like go through in the next few months. We need to grow and expand and get other dudes paid as quick as possible. So I wouldn't kind of like shove it down their throats that you guys need to recruit because you're always going to have those agents that are like, they're fine making 20, 30K a month, but you're going to have those dudes that want the next part of the business. They want the next level, right? So I'd be like, hey, listen, you guys got your first few deposits. It's your 2nd, 3rd month. You kind of understand the business. You can double your income or you can pay your business expenses if you just started bringing some other guys on. And I know you guys know other great people that are kind of replicatable to you. So same thing, by the second, third month, they had gotten their comp increase up. Now, immediately, instead of them waiting a year and a half like I did, I'd want them to bring in 2 or 3 guys at the same time. I just happened to maybe get a little bit lucky where like they brought in 4 or 5 guys at once. And then it was just a rinse and repeat process. They brought in 3, 4 guys. I helped train them as well, followed the same schedule. While my guys, I made sure I took at least, not a majority, but at least a good chunk of that training off their shoulders and leverage myself for their downlines so I can get them paid just as quickly as possible. But also those guys can hone in on their skills and get to that next level, be an elite closer. And at the same time, kind of have a team that's already kind of like, being trained by their upline or their upline's upline. So I kind of like rinse and repeated with that cycle. So after, so that was like July. By June, we did like 122K. It was like, had around like 4 or 5 fighters, I think at the time, or maybe 7. Few guys are brand new. Majority of the guys are like, from the first few riders are probably putting up most of like 120K. I'm putting up like 25, 30, focusing on training 7 guys at once. And then those dudes got paid. And then same thing, rinse and repeat. Those dudes got paid. They solidified everything in place. And then same thing, repeat the same cycle again. You guys want anybody that can actually benefit from this? This is the vision I have for the team. This is where I want you guys to be at in a few months. So they would share that vision that they had for their own personal goals of where they want their team to be with their downlines. So all in all, in retrospective, when you're trying to build a team and scale as quickly as possible, the main 2 objectives you want is to, number one, get your guys paid as soon as possible, right? It's easy to say that, but how do you do it? The best way and the best system I followed is exactly what we have in the Gold Cup script. When you guys get a guy contracted, as soon as he passes the exam, have him go through that 2-week window where they're waiting on their NPN, they're waiting on their home state license to get approved. Make sure they're treating it as a full-time job. The job doesn't start when they get licensed with their NPN and they get 3 carriers contracted. Then they start studying the script. The boot camp is that 2-week window before they even get contracted. Make sure that they're on every single training. They're working 10 to 7 in office or on Discord. They're on the calls. They're getting as much information as possible, and they're finishing all 17 or 18 videos on the Playbook Bootcamp. It's self-trained at this point. An agent can come in here, let's just say with no upline, follow the Playbook website through the whole bootcamp, and come out pretty decent or pretty okay if you had no upline. Have them follow that whole system, because by the time they hit the phone, they already have an idea of how applications work. They already know the script. They've already shouted so many different phone calls. They know the outcomes. They're a lot more motivated than they were when they first came in. And they see the success from everybody around them. They see the teams closing. They see everybody that's not on the team that's closing. They see the Discord popping off. At that point, they're so excited and have so much confidence to hit the phone. And you're just kind of like still keeping that leash on them, where it's like, yo, you still didn't get those 2-3 carries on. And they're getting a little bit more training in place. When they go hit the phones, there's a lot of hype and excitement into like, I finally am able to start dialing. After like the 2 weeks of training and momentum, that's like when they have the most energy to hit the phones, instead of just giving to them as if it's like nothing that's valuable. You really want to build up the value of how important it is, like, or like the privilege it is to get to dial on the phone, especially to dial the Halo leads. The privilege is to have the Volt. You want to build up that process so that they actually take it seriously when they start, because you made them wait 2 weeks to get it. Especially like, whenever you make somebody wait a few weeks to get it, they appreciate it a little bit more because it took so long. Same thing for the guys. You want to have them wait that period out, have them go through the full training. If they missed any steps, make sure they go back, fix those steps before they even hit a dial on the phone. That we found gets agents to close at least a minimum of like 3 or 4 deals the first week on average. 3 to 4 deals the first week. You recap at the end of the day with each agent individually. Get on a phone call with all those brand new agents for the first week, right? After there's the first week dialing, you recap like every single day of like how the day went with them, not during the day when they're dialing. And then on average, we found out like agents typically close 3 to 4 deals, and it's all because of like that 2-week window of training that coach has been talking about the last 3 or 4 weeks. And then what do you do the next week? The next week, you want to ease off the leash just a little bit. You want to kind of separate yourself from the agent, and you kind of want to take the training wheels off where instead of you dialing directly with them side by side for that first week, you kind of just throw him into the water a little bit, let him kind of like figure it out, how to learn how to swim on his own. And then he'll eventually like kind of like be able to kind of like get up on his own 2 feet and not have to ask for help or raise his mic every 2 minutes asking for help. You kind of want to use that baby steps in the first 2 weeks before they start dialing, kind of carry it on to the first week while they have their first like, well, you know, when their very first contract, they finally hit the phones. And then that second week, you want to ease off a little bit, but still maybe instead of like recap every day, recap like every few days. And then that third week, you pretty much like they should be good on their own. Like by the third, fourth week, they kind of got the idea of closing. At that point, just a matter of activity and how bad they want it and how often they're joining the trainings. After that, second, third month, typically agents are doing around 16 to 20, 25K. They're ready to increase their lead spend. And now when they're ready to increase their lead spend, their own leads, that's when you want to hit them with like, hey, the other part of the business is not only just you selling, but also the override of the business as well too. Can you think of a few guys that can actually benefit from a position like this? Like you went from 0 to having 10K in your bank account in 60 days. Now you're pacing to have another 15K deposit in the next 30 days. Anybody you can think of, they're like, yeah, my boy wants to do this. Oh, I have a best friend of mine that wants to do this. By the time he gets contracted and actually starts and passes the exam, his upline that recruited him already has his comp up, maybe by 5 or 10%. Now you can kind of put him under him, and the cycle just rinses and repeats. I know there's like a lot at once, but does anybody have any questions so far? In office or on Zoom?
I got a question.
Yeah.
What is your advice, like for an upline, for instance, like let's say they get a downline, and next like the first few weeks, they're kind of stumbling on the phone, they've gotten training, they're still asking for help on certain things, like they're still getting stuck on certain parts of the script, and kind of train them on what they should be saying and informing them on some tips and advice that they still haven't gotten that close yet. What can I do as an upline to kind of guide towards their success? I want them to succeed as well.
That's a really good question. That he asked, he was like, if you have an agent who's kind of like out of that first week, who's still kind of struggling with the script, still stumbling, still needs a little bit of help, what you do as an upline, how long like have they been here? Like how long have they been in training?
A week and 3 days.
Week and 3 days?
Yeah.
I would still train them in the mornings and at nights, go through the script over and over again, make sure they're joining the trainings and watching the videos, of course. And if they're still doing those things, it might just take them a little bit longer. I've seen dudes that do really well the first few weeks. I've seen dudes like myself when in the first 6 weeks of the business didn't sell anything. I sold 2 policies in my first 6 weeks. As long as they're putting in the effort, as long as they're showing up every day, they're joining the trainings, they're taking it seriously, I'll put 110% into them. But if it's like their 5th, 6th week, they're not joining the trainings, they're coming in late, they're half-assing it, like I'm just I'll literally tell them straight up, like, yo, you're half-assing the job. Like you're not taking this shit seriously. Like, what are you doing with your time right now? Like, yo, you show up late to work, you don't practice the script, you don't join the trainings. What do you think's gonna happen? You think you're gonna get better overnight? You have to just be really upfront and blunt with these guys. Because you gotta tell them, it's like, yo, you can't just show up every day with no intention, no work ethic, and expect to get results. You like some uplines, you notice, especially when you start recruiting, or like when you have a few guys under you, you're a little bit too soft. Yo, if it's gonna affect their pockets and them to get paid and not being able to pay their bills, you gotta be upfront with them. You gotta tell them exactly what they need to do, and you gotta check them on it.
Yeah.
The same way you check it better to go get his checkbook, check it downline to start coming up on time, or to start taking the script seriously. And they'll respect you for that. It's like, yo, I really appreciate that. Sometimes they're too afraid to admit that they're half-assing it, and you need to tell them that they're half-assing it, and they already know that. And then you don't only want to just stop at just checking them. You want to ask them, what are you going to do about it? Like, okay, all right, now that you know that you're doing bad, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to show up tomorrow and do the same thing? No, I think I should do X, Y, Z. Okay, let's build out a plan for it. Let's sit down. I'm like, all right, let's get the daily activity tracker. Right? I'm like, all right, fill this out for the next few days, and then tally mark each one that you have, like tally mark any objection that you're having trouble with, right? At the end of the week, I'm like, all right, you kind of like struggle over here, and then the next morning we'll spend an hour, like maybe around like 9:30 to like 10:30 before we kind of start dialing, and we'll just work on those objections over and over and over again. And then I'll kind of have them sit in my office for that day, have them work through it, and usually what I found is they end up closing 2 or 3 deals, maybe one. They regain that confidence and they're like, dang, it really was me the whole time. It wasn't the people around me. It wasn't leads. It wasn't anything else. And I'm like, all right, perfect. I actually believe this now that you were right. The next day they'll come in and they'll just carry in the same good habits. That's what you should do. Just make sure you don't stop at just checking them. You want to make sure you have like a good plan for them to actually execute on it.
So let's just say that scenario that he just said, right? Maybe not coming on time, maybe not prepared, maybe both. And you check them on it and you feel like nothing changed. What would you say is that timeline looks like before you want to get them out?
Me personally, I give them about a week.
So if you have that conversation with them, you give them a week to see if they're going to turn it around.
Yeah. Yeah, usually like a week. Sometimes, like, next day it might happen again. Like, you might have some weird, crazy excuse. You always want to give people the benefit of the doubt. But it's like second, third, fourth day at the end of the week. It's like, yo, listen, some shit's got to change. Either tomorrow you're not going to be anymore, or the next day, like, you have one more chance. Like, tomorrow morning, if you don't show up at 9 a.m., you're out of here. Most times, like, 50-50, they usually don't show back up. Like, and at the end of the day, it's like, oh, you wasted a week, 2 weeks, no big deal. But if you let it string along, you wait 3-4 months, the dude finally leaves, but he rolled up like $9,000 in debt. He's a bum anyway, so he's not going to pay you back for it. That's when you really wasted your time.
Yeah.
That's when I would say, like, have that talk with them, kind of like the same way in the corporate world would do. They kind of put you on like a performance improvement plan.
Same thing with these guys.
Kind of like the same thing, like give them a warning, like a strong, certain warning. Give them like, a few days to kind of like act on it. If they change it, good. If they don't, last warning, if it doesn't change tomorrow, not like you have another week, if it doesn't change tomorrow, you're done. And if they don't show up at 9, that's it.
Appreciate that.
Any questions in here?
Yeah, I have a question. I just need a clarification. At what point in the licensing process do you have them hop on for the 2 weeks? Is it as soon as they start the course, or is it after they pass the course?
The second they finish the exam, like I'll always have the notes, whether it's on a Word doc or my phone, like the day they scheduled their exam. So let's just say they're taking it on a Wednesday, and they're like, yo, Wednesday, like they're taking out like 6 p.m. The second they pass, I'm like, yo, great, congratulations. If they're in office, I'm like, tomorrow morning, come to the office at this time. And then that's when they come in. That's when I'll break it down to them, like, yo, over the next 2 weeks, this is what's going to look like. You're going to come in 10 to 7, just like a regular agent does that's already licensed. We're going to go through the boot camp. We're going to go through your training. We're going to go through everything from A to Z so that when you hit the phone, you're fully acclimated. There's no reason that you shouldn't be able to sell a few deals your first few weeks or your first week. That's like exactly what I do. The second they pass their exam, I'm going to do that.
Okay, and then you give them 2 weeks, like 2 weeks before they genuinely start first.
What about if they're not in office?
Yeah, if they're not in office, same thing applies. I'm going to have them join the Discord. We'll have the morning, like, in the morning. I'll break it down to them. Over the next 2 weeks, these are the steps we're going to follow. We're going to push you through the Playbook bootcamp. We're going to have you learn the script. We're going to have you shadow, train under everybody, join the Monday, Wednesday, Friday trainings, the Thursday night training, and the Tuesday morning one. And then after they pass, after the 2 weeks, once they get their NPN number, we'll do the contracting. And then those few days when they're waiting to get 3 carriers in place, we're still having them shadow. We're still doing script training. We're still having them run through a few more videos on the playbook, rewatching some of the playbook script training videos, rewatching, giving each video a few watches, just kind of building up that value, building up that hype until like they finally get to hit the phone. Because at that point, they're like, yo, I've been showing up for the last 2 weeks. I'm ready to hit the phone. I'm ready. I got this. That's like the time when you want to either hit the phones, like after they get like the third carrier contracted. But if they're on Discord, same thing, whether they're in office or on Discord, the second they pass, the next day they're showing up and they're starting as if it's an agent that's already been working for months. Because you want to build up, the reason why you want to do that is because you want to build up like that habit of having that schedule in place, of coming in every single day as if they're already like a licensed agent. So by the time they actually hit the phones, it doesn't feel like it's their first day starting. It feels like it's their third week in the business, when in reality, technically it's the first day that they can actually sell, but it's kind of like their third week in the business. Same thing when you start a regular job, whether it's like phone sales or a corporate job. Your first 2 weeks, you're not doing jack. You're doing like a company tour. You're meeting people. You're meeting the team. You're shadowing. You're learning the systems. That's pretty much what you all want to knock out that first 2 weeks while they're waiting on their license to get approved and their NPN and contract.
Thanks.
Any other questions, guys? Nori.
So when they're shadowing people, I know you usually have them shadow your voice first, right?
Yeah, so the shadowing process, what I'll do is, I'm glad you mentioned that. I don't just have them shadow like one person for like 2 weeks. If they're in Discord or in Office, this applies to both. I'll have them shadow me the first few days. I'll get to know them on a personal level. Like ask them like, yo, how you been? Like, get to know the guy a little bit, what he's into, his interests, his hobbies, where he's from. Basically, like, yo, I'm gonna be working with this guy like 10 hours a day, 6 days a week. I might as well get to know the guy, become friends with him. So kind of like develop a personal relationship. So that way, like, it's kind of like, yeah, it's good to have that. So it's not like always awkward, just business. You know what I mean? After like the second, third day, I'll have them start shadowing my team specifically. And what I'll do is I'll pair them up with each agent for like an hour and a half throughout the day. So an hour and a half, I'll put them with like Amir. Then I'll put them an hour and a half with FBI Mo. Then I'll put them an hour with like, they're on Discord, I'll put them with Abe or like David. And then if they're in Office, like after the second or third day, I'll have them shadow like Tay, I'll have them shadow Big Musa, I'll have them shadow Mustafa, Ahmed Musa. Because it does two things. They get to hear multiple personalities on the phone. They get to hear 10 different ways to close a deal, 15 different tonalities. They know there's like, they're all sticking to the script that's like a guide, but they get to hear like, different variations of how everybody works. And everybody that they shadow has like their own little sauce. So they get to like collect a little bit from everybody. So that way it's like they have like a really good tailored approach when they start, which is really helpful for them. But the second thing it does is they get to meet everybody on the team. So now when they come into work, nobody's a stranger. If they're on Discord, they're not a stranger to the people that they're calling with. If they're in Office, they're not a stranger. But by the end of the week, if they're in Office, they know every single guy's name. That's either on my team or not my team. They know everybody's name. They're cool with everybody. They met everybody. They had a really good relationship with every single person. They probably shouted that person multiple times. Same thing on the Zoom. They got to meet people from Dante's team, people from Andrew's team, people from my team, people that are remote. So it's like they kind of have like a really good idea of how the culture is. And everybody's really friendly and they get to learn from everybody that like succeeds on different levels. So that's a really good question, Wari. I'm glad you asked that. You want to have them shadow multiple people, not just one specific person every single day, the same person. Have them shadow their upline the first few days. After that, spread it out. Have them shadow this guy for a little bit, this guy for a little bit. And then you'll find out like it helps the team culture a little bit. They get to know everybody. And then also helps them hear like multiple different personalities on the phone.
Before they go to the stuff, like before they start dialing, are they gonna start shadowing you again at that, or just have them shadow other people until they start dialing?
So before they start dialing, I'll have them like let's just say they contracted, right? And it's like the day after they contracted, they're most likely gonna get 2 or 3 carries in the next few days. So what I'll have them do at the end of this is what I personally do. I don't know if anybody else does this. I'll put them through the test. I was like, all right, finally, it's like your final exam test of I want to see how much of this information you've actually retained. So I'll do a full, not like a full script breakdown, but I'll do like a run through on the script breakdown. Ask them like, hey, is there any questions that you had that you felt like you didn't get an answer to on the video, right? And then I'll do this in the morning for the first like maybe hour and a half. Do like a full script breakdown of like maybe any questions that they had on the script, stuff that didn't make sense. I'll adjust those questions and run through the script holistically, like what each part of the script does for them, kind of like a script master call. And then I'll tell them tomorrow we're going to do a pass or fail exam. Tomorrow I'm going to hit you on intro objections. I'm going to hit you on numbers objections, social, and banking. All right. You get 3 failed attempts, right? Like I don't want you to be 100% on the script, but I want you to have an idea of where the objections are in the script and how to kind of like at least be half as good as answering them, or at least know where to navigate in the script or where to find those objections, right? I want to see like, was this guy actually watching the videos and understanding them, or was he just watching them and showing up to work? I only had one agent ever fail this, but usually, so the next day I'll come in and I'll do like a quick, I'll do like, what do you call it? Like a not like a rundown, but I'll do like a quick, like a rapid fire. I'll do like a rapid fire with, all right, let's just say I'm doing it with that, right? I'm like, that, what if I told you I'm not interested? If he takes some 3-4 seconds to answer, that's a fail. I'm like, all right, that fine. You messed up that one. What'd you say? I'm not interested. Or like, what'd you say is you're the 10th person that called me. If he knows, if he's like starting off the rebuttal somewhat the right way, but needs a little bit of work, but he knows where to go in the script, or he has the answer pretty quickly, it's a pass in my book because majority of that's going to come with repetition and him being on the phone. I just want to know he has an idea and he knows what he's talking about. Then I'll go to the numbers objection. What if I told you I need to talk about it? What if I told you I need to think about it? I got to talk to my wife, or I don't like any of the options. Same thing. If they take more than 5 or 10 seconds to answer, they don't know where they really are in the script. They're saying the wrong rebuttal for the objection I gave them. After like the third or fourth one, I'm like, all right, we're gonna stop right here tomorrow or tonight. Go back, read these over, understand them a little bit better. Go back, watch a script training video, watch the curveball objections. Try to have these memorized, or at least memorize where they are in the script. And then tomorrow we'll take it back up again. Because basically I want to tell them, like, yo, listen, like, I don't want you to waste my time and I don't want you to waste your time if you get on the phone and you just wasted a week of Halo leads, or you wasted a week of the Volt because you weren't taking it seriously in the last 2 weeks. You weren't utilizing the trainings, you weren't memorizing the script or the objections. I want to test you on it. So that's pretty much what I would do. That's like the last like few days, like that's after contracting, but it's still like that 1 or 2 day window where they're waiting for a few carries to come in. That's where like I'm testing them on the script. And if it's a really bad fail, they're gonna go back, try again the next day. Hopefully they pass. If they don't, same thing, go back, try the next day.
So you won't let them die until.
I won't let them down until they know what they're talking about. Because they're just gonna wait. They're just gonna waste a week of Halo leads. They're gonna waste their time. At least know what you're talking about. Know where these objections are. Be a little bit hard in the beginning, because at the end of the day, yeah, it's a little bit of a rigorous training, but it's gonna help them in the beginning. Like, yeah, you went through like a little bit of a longer training process versus the guy that maybe he got the dial right away on some other team, but hey, you closed 3 or 4 deals your first week. You're a lot sharper. You have a better tone than most people that start. By the 3rd, 4th week, you're buying leads. Majority of my agents, by the 4th week, they're buying leads. They already got paid. They're buying leads. We have free leads for 10 weeks. They're buying leads their 4th week. But it's because they went through a really long, hard process of training. They memorized the script. They took it seriously. They have the rebuttals memorized. They've shadowed so many different people. And it was over the course of 3 weeks. It wasn't just all crammed into one day.
So agency bootcamp, if you have them watch it the first 2 weeks, do you have them watch it during the 10 to 7, or do you have them watch it at home, like after 7 o'clock?
Both. So I had them watch it during the 10 to 7 while they're shadowing. The reason why is because when you're shadowing somebody, you might sit there for like 15 minutes, talk to the guy for a little bit, but he might not be getting that many pickups. Who knows what kind of day it is? He might close a few deals in front of you. He might not close a few deals in front of you. So to make up for that lost time, have them watch the videos. Majority of the videos are like 5-10 minutes. And hey, the thing is about watching them, he might be able to come across something they didn't understand, and he can quickly ask a quick question to the guy he's shadowing. He's like, hey, what does this mean? Gives a quick answer, he goes back to down. It's a team effort.
That was a clinic that Moose put on, and the good thing is, hopefully, I think it's going to be recorded anyway, so you guys can all listen to this again if you're virtual or in person. And if there's one thing you can take away what he said, I would say it mainly came from the work that happened before they actually started dialing is the difference. Then hold on to that standard after. That's what I think one of the biggest things we can take away from this. Especially I always say, now that we're doing these Halo leads, listen, there isn't a million Halo leads to give out every single week. Like, it's not how it's going to go. I'd rather give it to this dude than that dude if that dude isn't putting in the time and effort in. If you came in unprepared, then I don't want you dialing them at all. So keep that in mind, guys, especially with this new system. It's not the Vault anymore where it's like just dial through this billion leads that's there. No, like, these are personalized leads that you can give to somebody else. Remember that, or someone else could have. So don't waste it on the wrong people. So to close out Gold Club 1, first, thank you, Musa. Thank you, Ronnie. And thank you, everybody, for joining. And we'll see you guys on next Gold Club. Peace, everybody.